पादमौलिपर्यन्तं गुरुणाम् कृतिं स्मरेतेन प्रणश्यन्ति सत्यन्ते च मनोरथः लक्ष्मीं धनोतुलितरामितराणिपेक्षमङ्गलद्वयं निगमशाखेशिखाप्रबालं हैरम्बमम्बुरुहडम्बरचौर्यनित्यं विघ्नत्रिभेदशतधारतरन्दर्नः सर्वेषां स्वागतम्. So, when we go to the next session of Saṃskāra, the concept that we go through in the 22nd verse is Drishtanta. It is mentioned over here. Praturna Drishtanta Udahrata Samaha. This line comes in the 22nd shloka. So we have seen what Drishtanta is. We have already understood that is example from the Vadakata concept. But what is this and how important is it? We spoke about Advaita in the previous Saṃskāra sessions where we experienced that two people who are having the same base principle of Advaita also were able to, they were at odds, crossroads, when it came to illustrating their philosophy through examples. So Drishtanta becomes very important. So even at this point of time, where Rama is actually criticizing the Purva Pakshavada, it is with respect to the example that they are giving. They say this is not, he says it is not even the right example what you are giving. You are saying Vidya Samatvena tu Darshitastvaya. You have said that Vidya is equal to karma. You showed it that way. But Drishtanta Udahrata Samaha na Samaha. Kraturna Drishtanta Udahrata Samaha. Why? Because phalaihi prataktvaha. Phalaihi prataktvat. And bahukarakaihi. Different elements being. So it becomes important to give the right examples. So in that way, we need to understand what examples are akar, how are they, etc., etc., etc. So Drishtanta means an example only. Either we say it is example or illustration. It can be different way. But Drishtanta means an example in simple meaning. So why it is important? One, it is used to clarify certain complex concepts. Concept of Brahman, etc., is not very easily understood, and even if it is explained in some words, the words are so complex, it is not easier to understand. So therefore, giving an example is actually a very easy way of giving a better understanding, conveying better understanding. And it is easier to explain abstract ideas when we use examples. It gives a better understanding. So this way, in philosophy, especially in the Indian scriptures, there is huge use of Drishtanta. Like for example, in Nyaya, there is um, predominant use of Gata Pata. Gata is a earthen pot. Pata is a this thing, kite. So many of the concepts have been explained through Ghata Pata. Rope and snake, Rajju and Sarpa, Adhyaropa, all that is used in Vedanta. So, they take, some people take certain kinds of Drishtanta and they try to explain it through that itself. So here there can be different, the Drishtanta can be different in nature. Like for example, it can be positive, it can be negative, it can be analogical. Positive are basically similar examples. Similar examples as in when we say the merger of Jiva and Brahma can be like a drop of water going into the ocean. like for example, merging with the Brahman. Then the drishtanta can also be negative, or rather it can be a contrasting example. Like for example, um, saying something should not be done, consequences. This is the reason you shouldn't do this. Like that, giving an example that this will lead to something, something like non occurrence of karma, non performance of karma can incur sin. Giving a negative example and trying to install certain values. That one. Then there are comparative analogical drishtanta, with which is completely different. That means we are not even focusing on the thing over there, that is the matter at hand, but we are taking some different um, phenomenon, some different uncorrelated phenomenon, trying to draw one analogy over there. So that way, um, how we take the example of it can be purely metaphoric. Like for example, how we take the mind as the ratha, and the five horses pulling that ratha are the five sense organs, like that. So this can be analogical drishtanta also. And it is hugely used in our scriptures. In Upanishad also it is used. Bhagavad Gita also we will find many such things. Yoga Sutras, Buddhist scriptures, Jain scriptures, you will find all those things, etc., etc. And these are have to we have to the one thing that we need to understand about Drishtanta is that after explaining the example, I'm taking the water dropping into the water drop going into the ocean. After explaining that phenomenon, I have to break it down in its elements. I have to give a elemental understanding of what it is. Then I have to build relations. That is the reason that whole Nyaya is so important, because it helps us. The first, it gives us the elemental relationships. Karya Karana Bhava, Prayojana Prayojaka Bhava, Anga Angi Bhava, etc., etc., etc. So this way, we have to first split it into its elemental form. Then we have to first first establish the relationship between them. After we establish the relationship between them, then we draw our conclusions or inference using the logic. Logic is already set, so therefore, this has to result in so there we draw that inference. Then we say why, when we are doing, if I'm giving a drishtanta for Purva Paksha Vada, then I have to find a objection to the first one that has been stated, first philosophy that has been stated. Like if I'm against Mayavada, I have to give my drishtanta, or I have to find something wrong in their drishtanta. That is also there. If I'm doing Khandana, usually Purva Pakshavada, they give their own drishtanta. Purva Paksha Khandana is the extension of the drishtanta saying why it is wrong. So in that sense, what happens if I'm giving my own example? Yes, so I have to do, and I have to give the meanings. When I'm doing Khandana of that, then what happens is I have to, um, after establishing my relevance, their hypothesis must be rejected that way. And in this, we have different types of drishtanta also. That is, we have three kinds of drishtanta: Swabhava drishtanta, Lakshana drishtanta, and Upma drishtanta. Swabhava drishtanta, all three of them are usually analogies only. So Swabhava drishtanta is basically illustrating an essential nature, as in, like for example, saying that the swarupa of Brahman Sat Chit Ananda, why we are saying, because eternal bliss, the true form of Brahman is of eternal bliss, we are saying. So that is Swabhava. Then Lakshana Drishtanta. because we know the concept of Ananda. Therefore, we are able to say that once the liberation happens, the true liberation happens, obviously we are going to be eternally happy. The true nature of Brahman is filled with Ananda, bliss. Then Lakshana Drishtanta. Lakshana Drishtanta is highlighting the characters. There is also in Alankara, there is something called as Deepaka Alankara. In Deepaka Alankara, um, um, there is one example. Um, Garvena not Prajapati. Marina Kalabha. I think it is Prajapati, not Prajapati. Darpena Darpena Bhupatihi Madena Kalabha. This is a example. Darpa is to Mahipati. Darpa is to a Mahipati. Mahipati is means a king. Darpena Mahipatihi Madena Kalabha. Kalabha means elephant. So to a elephant, Mada, musk when it starts, that nature, the bhushana, it is basically trying to say that the characteristic of a darpa to a mahipati is equivalent to a to that of a mada to a elephant, like that, highlighting a certain characteristic through this analogy, the importance of that particular. We are not doing any connections over there. It is just that it that is important to this, like this is important to that. That is an analogy only. So highlighting that particular characteristic in such a way. So I think in Bhagavad Gita, karma is compared to a seed. Is it in Bhagavad Gita? Karma is compared to a seed growing into a particular tree. Karma phala, going that way. So we don't know how the tree will start to go. There it is Gahana Karmana Gati. We don't know how we can try to bind it to one particular stick and try to give it direction. Nonetheless, it will turn towards the sunlight only. It has its own way. That is something. And then there we have Upama Drishtanta. Upama Drishtanta is basically uh, just this is again through nature only, but trying to explain the nature of someone through something. Is basically a concept of Alankara where we have Upamana, Upameya. That means there is a definite article and there is an indefinite article. Giving the example or comparison of the definite article helps us understand things better. Like, for example, for Saundarya, we say Shashi. That means the moon. So bright and uh, so that the beauty of the moon is going to be compared over. Like, um, Chanchalam hi manah Krishna, Vayuriva Sudushkaram, right? Like Vayuriva, like Vayu. Vayu is definite. We cannot hold it. That nature has been compared with the chanchalatva of the mind, because even mind cannot be captured in that way. So like this is called as Upma Drishtanta. So these are the different kind of Drishtanta that is usually used in our ancient scriptures, trying to understand different elements. And this is used uh, extensively because it gives a better understanding, better conveyance of the ideas. And it is so important that if we don't give the right example, then arguments themselves don't find validity, like what happened in Advaita. So a new example had to be given because the Drishtanta of reflection did not work. there were so many confusions. There were so many, like, actually that Drishtanta had its principles. In its own self, it is correct. Whatever has the principle that was expressed, that Drishtanta is correct. But through that Drishtanta, there were a lot of objections taken, and then a new example had to be given to prove the Shuddha Advaita philosophy. So that way, Drishtanta is very important, and therefore that needs to be taken care of in our Vadakatha or in the art of argument. So this being one of the samskaras. स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः प्रतिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीमहीषा गोब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि।